Have you ever wondered why some women seem to live rent-free in a man's mind without chasing, without trying? There's something about them that lingers. Something deep, magnetic, untouchable. It's not about being prettier, sweeter, or smarter. It's something far more ancient, something no one ever taught you because they were too afraid of what would happen if you knew. Carl Jung once spoke of an energy hidden in the shadows. A feminine force, raw and primal, that's been buried for centuries under the weight of be nice and be quiet. But it never went away. It's been waiting for you to remember. What if the very thing that makes him chase you is the part of you you've been told to hide? If this speaks to something deep inside you, stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change everything. You weren't born ashamed of your power. That came later when the world started whispering rules into your ear. Speak softer. Smile more. Don't be so intense. And little by little, you learn to fold yourself smaller just to be acceptable, just to be safe. But let's get one thing clear right now. You were never too much. You were only ever more than they knew how to handle. There's a quiet kind of violence in being told to dim your light. And you felt it, haven't you? The way people flinch when you speak with passion. The way they shift uncomfortably when your presence takes up space. Somewhere along the way, society taught you that being bold meant being difficult, that having needs made you needy. That feeling deeply made you dramatic, and so you started to shrink. You laughed a little less loudly. You asked for less. You said, "It's fine," when it absolutely wasn't. All because the world told you, too much is dangerous. But what if that fire inside you, the one you've been trying to smother for years, was never the problem? What if it was the key? Carl Jung had a name for this part of you. He called it the shadow. It's the place where we bury everything we've been taught to hide. Rage, desire, power, vision. It's where your dark feminine lives, not as something evil, but as something rejected. And here's the truth no one told you. Rejection doesn't make something wrong. It just means it scared someone. Have you ever caught yourself shrinking? Just to be loved? Just to be chosen? You're not alone. Every woman has had a moment, or many, when she chose silence over truth, pleasing over power, appearance over authenticity. Not because she wanted to, but because survival sometimes demanded it. But surviving is not the same as living. Let's go back to her, the version of you before the shame settled in. Before you started editing yourself. She was wild, emotional, unapologetic. She didn't second-guess her laugh, or wonder if she was texting too often. She wasn't afraid of being too much. She was whole. And then came the rules, the shoulds, the labels. Society wrapped her in a corset of control and told her, this is femininity. Pretty, soft, contained. But containment is not the same as peace. And pretty is not the same as powerful. Somewhere in your body, you already know this. You've felt it, the ache of holding back. The quiet fury of having more to say, more to give, more to be, but keeping it all locked away because the world said, don't scare them. But here's the shift. Maybe they should be a little scared. Because the dark feminine, the part of you that doesn't apologize, that sees through lies, that says no and means it, is not here to make anyone comfortable. She's not here to be agreeable. She's not here to perform. She's here to reclaim what's been taken. And that, right there, is why some people called you too much. Not because you were wrong, but because you were right. Too right for a system that benefits from your silence. The dark feminine is the energy that lets you walk away without looking back. It's the knowing in your gut when someone is lying. It's the wild grief that becomes wisdom. It is softness with claws, compassion without self-abandonment, beauty that cannot be controlled. They feared this power, so they taught you to fear it too. But what if you unlearned all of that? What if every piece of yourself you were told to hide, your messiness, your sensuality, your anger, your complexity, was actually sacred? What if it's time to stop performing and start embodying? You've been conditioned to believe you're lovable when you behave, when you're easy, when you're quiet. But love, the real kind, shows up when you are whole. Not when you shrink to fit someone's comfort, but when you take up your rightful space. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Your fire was never meant to be extinguished. It was meant to light the path for others. So reclaim it. Reclaim the laugh that's too loud, the vision that's too bold, the love that's too deep, the truth that's too raw. The parts of you that scared them, those were always your power. And if this makes something inside you stir, if it feels like you're waking up to something you forgot, that's not an accident. It means you're ready. Ready to stop apologizing. Ready to stop shrinking. Ready to come home to yourself. Because the world doesn't need another woman who knows how to behave. It needs you, the real you. Untamed, unfiltered, and finally, free. There's a certain kind of woman who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying a word. Heads turn. Conversations pause. Not because she's the most conventionally beautiful, not because she's loud or dressed to impress, but because something in her presence demands to be felt. She doesn't chase. She doesn't perform. She doesn't try. And yet, he can't stop thinking about her. Days later, her memory lingers like a song he can't quite name. That's not coincidence. That's frequency. You see, attraction isn't built on perfection. It's built on resonance. When you stop apologizing for who you are, when you stop diluting your truth to fit in, you start vibrating at your natural frequency. And that frequency is magnetic. Carl Jung spoke of this through the lens of the unconscious. In every man, he said, there lives a feminine image, the Anima, a dreamlike force within the male psyche, representing mystery, intuition, chaos, emotion. Most men are disconnected from her. But when he meets a woman who embodies what he's denied in himself, something awakens. This is why the dark feminine doesn't just attract him. She activates him. She becomes the forbidden fire, a flame that can't be held, but pulls him closer anyway. But make no mistake, this energy has nothing to do with playing games or manipulating. It's not about pretending to be hard to get. That's performance. The dark feminine doesn't pretend. She simply is. She holds her truth, her softness, her rage, her pleasure without needing it to be understood, validated, or accepted. That's the paradox that confuses him and draws him in deeper. Because for most of his life, he's met women who seek his approval, who soften their edges to keep his interest, who try to be chosen. But then comes her, the woman who doesn't flinch when he pulls away, who doesn't chase after breadcrumbs, who doesn't shrink to soothe his discomfort. She doesn't need to be chosen, because she already chooses herself. And that, ironically, is what makes him chase her. There's a story I once heard about a woman who never asked for love, but seemed to summon it wherever she went. Not because she was trying. In fact, she often appeared disinterested. But she moved with presence. She knew who she was. She didn't seek approval, and she didn't fear solitude. And every man who crossed her path felt something even if he couldn't name it. It wasn't about her words or her looks. It was her energy, full, unapologetic, sovereign. That's the dark feminine. She doesn't audition. She radiates. When you stop chasing validation, when you stop negotiating your worth, something fundamental shifts. The part of you that once bent over backward to be liked begins to rise. And in its place stands a woman who doesn't need to be desired to feel powerful. He feels that, even if he doesn't understand it. Even if he can't explain why he keeps coming back in his mind to you. Because you're not offering him comfort. You're offering him truth, the kind that shakes something loose in him. The kind that calls him to meet you on your level. Or step aside. You become a mirror, not of his ego, but of his missing parts. The ones he left buried years ago, when he decided emotions were weak and mystery was dangerous. And when you stand in that energy not to provoke, but simply to be you, become unforgettable. It's not what you do, it's who you are when you stop apologizing for being powerful. That's the secret. Not a game, not a strategy, a remembering. You are the fire that can't be tamed, the echo of something ancient in his blood. You are not chasing, you are calling, not with words, but with presence. And the ones who can feel you truly feel you will come closer. Not because you begged for it, but because you reminded them of something they forgot. And now they can't look away. They told you to be the good girl, smile politely, say thank you, even when you feel hurt. Keep your voice soft, don't be difficult, be liked. And for a while, maybe for years, you tried. You followed the script, you swallowed your truth. You played small to keep the peace. You said yes when your body screamed no. You nodded through conversations that disrespected your soul. But the thing about pretending is that it doesn't last. Something inside you eventually cracks under the weight of it. A whisper becomes a roar. A polite smile turns into clenched fists behind closed doors. That's not failure. That's the beginning of your rebellion. Because the good girl wasn't good for you. She was a mask, a survival tactic, a version of you built to be palatable, to keep others comfortable at the expense of your own fire. But deep down, you always knew. She was never the whole story. Carl Jung described a process called individuation, the journey of becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished. Whole. That means owning both the light and the shadow, the grace and the rage, the tenderness and the boundaries. Not choosing between sweetness or strength, but standing in the truth that you are both. You are not here to be easy to digest. You are here to be real. And real means complicated. Real means radiant and messy, loving and unapologetic. The kind of woman who can hold space for another person's pain while still refusing to abandon her own needs. Imagine this. A woman stands before a mirror. She spent years trying to fit the reflection, changing her face, softening her voice, adjusting her posture to match the version of herself she was taught to become. But one day, she's had enough. She raises her hand, and with one sharp breath, she shatters the glass. The shards fall around her like old beliefs breaking apart. And for the first time, she sees herself clearly, no filters, no performance, no need for permission. This is the moment of birth, not of a new self, but of your true self. The one who was always there beneath the layers of expectation. The one who doesn't need to earn her place. The one who loves deeply without losing herself. The one who knows that softness is not weakness and that power doesn't require permission. What would happen if you stopped dimming your light? Who might you become if you stopped asking for approval and started giving yourself the space to just be? You don't need to reject the parts of you that are kind or nurturing. You simply need to stop abandoning the parts that are bold, wild, and powerful. You are not a brand. You are not a role to be played. You are not here to be easy, perfect, or pleasing. You are here to be whole. And when you allow that wholeness, when you make space for your contradictions and your complexities, something profound happens. You stop living to be accepted. You start living in alignment. The good girl is a lie, but you are the truth. And the moment you embrace every piece of you, the soft, the savage, the sacred, you become unforgettable. Not because you tried to be, but because you remembered who you really are. Keep going. The world has enough good girls. It needs more whole women. You've been told to be stable, predictable, easy to read, easy to love. But the truth is, predictability doesn't create desire. It creates comfort. And while comfort may be safe, it's not unforgettable. Desire lives in the unknown. You see, the dark feminine is not afraid of chaos. She is chaos, not the kind that destroys without reason, but the kind that creates new worlds from what others abandoned. She is the storm that clears the path, the lightning that splits the sky and says, "Look at me." In mythology, chaos was never just disorder. It was the beginning, the raw, unshaped power from which all life emerged. In Greek tradition, chaos came before earth, before sky, before everything. In Jungian psychology, it's the unconscious, the swirling depths of feeling and instinct and archetype, where transformation is born. This is where you come in. Your depth, the part of you that feels too much, knows too much, loves too fiercely, that is your storm. And when you stop fearing it, when you stop trying to tame yourself just to fit someone's image of stable, you become magnetic in a way that logic cannot explain. Have you ever let someone see the real storm inside you and stayed anyway? Because here's the thing, most people are terrified of their own emotional weather. They try to keep it sunny at all costs. They smile when they're crumbling. They say, "I'm fine," through clenched teeth. But there's something different about a woman who can sit in her chaos without shame. A woman like that doesn't just invite attraction. She summons it. Why? Because she has depth. She holds multitudes. She makes him feel something he hasn't felt in years or maybe ever. A man might not understand what's happening, but he can't deny it. When she looks at him, it's not just eye contact, it's soul contact. He feels seen, exposed, stirred awake. It's not because she's performing mystery. It's because she is mystery. She carries pain and passion and wisdom like a second skin. And she doesn't explain it. She doesn't need to. This is where the energy of chaos becomes sacred. Not chaos for the sake of drama, but chaos with direction. Chaos with depth. She knows that destruction makes room for rebirth. She knows that shadows reveal what light cannot. There's a moment I want you to imagine. A woman standing in a storm rain, soaking her hair, wind whipping through her clothes. She doesn't run for cover. She doesn't flinch. She breathes it in. And in that moment, she is terrifyingly beautiful. Not because she's trying to be, but because she belongs to the storm. That's you. When you stop resisting the wildness in you. When you stop apologizing for the messiness of your soul. When you own the fact that your emotions are not a liability, they are a language. A language that speaks to the part of him that's buried under decades of pretending not to feel. And when you speak in that language, he hears it. Maybe not with words, but with his body, with his instincts, with his memory of what it felt like to feel alive. He may not understand why he's drawn to you. He may try to explain it away. But deep down, he knows you are not someone he can forget. Because your chaos woke up something in him that silence never could. So stop trying to be easy. Stop pretending to be low maintenance. Stop shrinking your storm into a drizzle just so someone else doesn't get wet. The world does not need another pleasant woman who hides her depth to be digestible. It needs you full spectrum, untamed, and unapologetically powerful. Because in a world addicted to surface, your depth is a revolution. At some point, every woman reaches a quiet crossroad. You've played the part. You've smiled when you didn't mean it. You've waited to be chosen, thinking maybe if you just try a little harder, give a little more, care a little less, then it'll finally be your turn. But here's the question that changes everything. What if the version of you they liked was never actually you? Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you're trained to be, not who you're praised for being, but who you were before the masks, before the roles, before the script." Performing is exhausting. It leaves you hollow. You smile at the right times, say what they want to hear, and try to stay agreeable. But inside, there's a small voice asking, "What about me?" That voice is not weak. That's the beginning of your awakening. The moment you stop performing, the moment you stop chasing validation and start reclaiming your truth, everything begins to shift. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. You start saying no, not to hurt anyone, but to honor yourself. You start walking away not out of bitterness, but out of deep respect for your energy. You stop needing to be chosen because you realize you've already chosen yourself. This is not arrogance. This is sovereignty. There's a quiet power in no longer needing to prove your worth. When you are rooted in your truth, you don't have to demand attention. You become the attention. People feel you. They notice something different. Not louder, deeper. Imagine this. A woman sits alone in a crowded room. She is not performing. She is not seeking anyone's gaze. She is simply at peace, grounded, whole, and wildly present. And yet, every eye drifts toward her. Not because of what she's doing, but because of who she is being. That is the power of presence. That is the dark feminine fully awakened. When you stop trying to be lovable and start becoming love itself, you become the source. You are no longer a mirror reflecting someone else's desires. You are the flame. You are the gravity. He feels it. Not because you flirted better or played by some invisible rulebook, but because you radiate a sense of "I am enough." That's not something you say. It's something you are. And let's be clear, choosing yourself is not about isolation. It's about integration. It's about finally coming home to the parts of you you once left behind for approval. The wild one. The soft one. The one who cries loudly and laughs without filtering. The one who asks for what she wants and knows she's worthy of receiving it. You don't need to be anyone's version of perfect. You don't need to be agreeable to be accepted. You don't need to be chosen to feel valuable. You are not here to be approved. You are here to be remembered. And the truth is, you don't have to chase love when you become it. When you live in truth, even when it's messy, even when it's not what people expect, you give others permission to do the same. That's how you change the world. Not by being digestible, but by being whole. So let this be your moment. Let this be the chapter where you stop playing small, where you stop begging to be seen and instead become unignorable. You've been enough from the beginning. You've just been taught to forget. If you're ready to stop performing, to step fully into who you were always meant to be, this is your moment. Own it. The stage was never theirs. It was always yours. Your power was never gone. It didn't vanish. It wasn't broken. It simply got buried beneath fear, beneath conditioning, beneath the endless pressure to be what the world expected. But what you just walked through wasn't a lesson. It was a remembering. You are not the girl who waits for permission. You are not the woman who dims her light to make others feel comfortable. You are not here to be defined. You are the storm and the calm, the fire and the depth, the softness and the strength. You are the woman who rises without apology, who no longer whispers her worth, who no longer waits to be seen because she sees herself. This was never about becoming someone new. It was about coming home to the truth that was always inside you. If this touched something sacred in you, share it. Let it awaken someone else. Let it ripple out to the ones who've forgotten their fire too. And tell us with all your heart, what part of yourself are you reclaiming today? We're listening.